pictures and patterns put into words that stream across the page, capturing life as soft-spoken.
Hey everybody, Jane here, and I want to tell you about the 5 things I've read recently. I decided not too long ago that I didn't want to do monthly wrap-ups anymore because I'm not necessarily reading with the speed I was, and I didn't want to put pressure for a wrap-up. So I'm just going to do recent reads for a while until I get my reading mojo back maybe. But it'll be the same as a monthly wrap-up, just it won't necessarily be everything I've read in the last month. It'll be just my last few reads. So the first book I want to talk about is If the Shoe Fits by Julie Murphy. This is a Cinderella retelling featuring a plus-size protagonist. I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5. I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed it so much I'm going to be doing a separate review on this book. If you had seen my review where I talked about One to Watch, this has a very similar idea, but I thought this was much better executed, and I enjoyed this book so much more. So if you read One to Watch and were disappointed for the same reasons I was, this might be exactly what you're looking for. So Cindy designs shoes, and she's been in college, and her father has passed away, and she's just kind of lost her designing mojo for a bit. And her stepmom is a producer on a Bachelor type show, and this guy Henry is going to be the next Bachelor. She doesn't know that, but there's a Bachelor type show, and her mom has said, why don't you, her daughters, go on it? And Cindy says, well, I'd like to go on it too. And her mom does warn her. She says, you know, there's a potential that people could be really nasty and ugly in the comments and the thoughts in the show, and I don't want you dragged through that. But Cindy says, no, it's okay. I'm a big girl, I can handle it, and this way I can get some publicity, try to get some better jobs, things that she just, I think, feels like she's really in a rut since her dad died, and she wants to get out of that rut and get back into the designing world, and she feels like this show is the way to do it. And so she goes on the show and is one of the bachelorettes pursuing the Bachelor guy. So that's the main plot. In One to Watch, it was the opposite plot of the plus-size girl was the Bachelor, and all the guys were pursuing her. But I love that idea. But this was so much mentally better and healthy for me to read. So I really enjoyed it, 4 out of 5. The next book I read was a play. And I read it because it is a play I am planning to audition for. And that is Puffs. This is a satire of Harry Potter. And I really enjoyed it. It basically is snippets of fun things turned on their heads or from a different perspective. It's just so funny and cute and a satire, and I really loved it. I had a great time with it. So I went ahead and gave this a 4 out of 5. I will be auditioning for it for a minor role. We have been really busy, and my kids are in a play, which I'm going to tell you about in a second. And so I don't have time to do a major role, but I do want to audition for Puffs in a minor role and see if I can get it. I have a couple different characters I'd really enjoy getting, including their version of Professor Sprout, their version of Moaning Myrtle, and another character who's not in, like, doesn't have a person in the Harry Potter series, but is one of these characters' mother who escapes from Azkaban. So I just thought this was lovely. If you love Harry Potter and don't mind a bit of satire, read through this. I will tell you one thing. I originally was going to have my boyfriend audition with me and try to get the part of the equivalent of Snape, because my boyfriend is very Snape-ish. However, they have a scene where the Snape equivalent is the sex ed teacher. And my boyfriend is the most blushing person in the world. Like, he would never say anything. And the things that are said by Snape, as soon as I read that scene, I'm like, well, golly, you can't be Snape now, no way. But, yes, all of you, Snape as a sex ed teacher. Need I say more? Read it. It's awesome. As I said, 4 out of 5. The next book I am not going to read up a copy of because I only have, like, the stage version. It is the play that my kids are in. My kids are going to be in a play called Pirates the Musical. And it is an adorable little kids play about a little girl who is, a little girl. It's a play, in our play, it's a girl. A stowaway who boards this pirate ship and desperately wants to be a pirate. And, of course, there's all kinds of confrontation of, you are not ready to be a pirate, you're not one of us. And it's just adorable. I gave it a 4 out of 5 for what it is. It's a musical, it's cute, my kids are going to be in it, I am excited. Back to books. The next book is How to Live Like a Monk, Medieval Wisdom for Modern Life. This is a nonfiction, and overall I really enjoyed it. It is really pretty. They have a lot of colored illustrations in there, and it talks, basically you have this, like, a lot of educational stuff about medieval monks, how they lived, the rules they followed. I learned a lot, and then how that could be used by us in modern days. There was things like having green spaces, minimalization, things like that. I really overall had a good time with this book. I am giving it a 4 out of 5 because it was easy to read, which for a nonfiction is so big. And it had some good advice. I didn't necessarily think all of it was real well done. I think this person wanted to write a book about monks, but then have people actually want to read it. Because they were really enthusiastic about monks, and sometimes and this is how we should live, felt like an afterthought. I do realize, too, that they knew that they were playing to, or potentially playing to, a secular audience, like myself. And so that made it hard, because it's like taking these people who are living a very specific way as part of their worship, as part of their spiritual journey, and then saying, well, we should try living this way too, because there are benefits to it. And there are, and there was a lot of really cool, hey, maybe if we did this more in our life, we would be happier. But I actually enjoyed the educational parts of this, like how monks lived, a little more than and make sure that you are in green spaces and minimalist and, that kind of stuff. So 4 out of 5, a good nonfiction, a fairly short, easy read nonfiction as well. The last book I've read recently was called The Late Show. This is about Detective Renee Ballard, and she has been put on the night shift because she had accused one of her superiors of sexual harassment, and she got put on the night shift as punishment. He did not ever get punished, and she got put on the night shift. One of her frustrations with the night shift is they never get to finish a case. So they start one, and then they hand it off to day shift, and day shift takes over. And she doesn't like that. So this book actually covers 3 different cases that she ends up being involved in despite being on the night shift. She doesn't fully hand them over. There is a robbery case where an old lady's credit card was stolen. There is a beating of a person who identifies as female but still has male stuff, and I believe was doing prostitution. So initially they're thinking that the reason that she was beat up is because she got in a car to do some hooking, and the John didn't like her equipment. And then the final case she is on, Renee's on, is a shooting in a nightclub. And I ended up giving this book a 3 out of 5. I don't plan to continue this series, and I don't know if I'll read more by this author. Like, I might watch the shows that are related to his books, because I believe he has a series about a guy named Bosch, and there's a TV show about Bosch, maybe. They were talking about it in book club. There's a TV series related to this author's characters, not Renee, and I might try it, but I don't know that I will purposely pick this book up again, this kind of book up again from him, or read further in the series. This was a pick from book club, and I have found that a lot of what book club is picking, sometimes I really love it, and sometimes it's just not to my taste. And this was one. It's a police procedural, which I love watching. I don't necessarily enjoy reading. So there was that. Also, Renee just wasn't a character I was connecting to. She lives a very unusual lifestyle. She's not exactly homeless, but she's kind of homeless. She sleeps on a beach with her dog and surfs when she's not working. So she basically goes from the station, goes, surfs, sleeps in a tent, takes the dog to the dog sitter, and then goes to work. And that is her life. She does not have family. She has a grandmother who plays a very small role in the book. She doesn't really have friends. She has a work partner, but he's very busy and not a very developed character, I didn't think either. I would have liked to see more of him. He is on the night shift because he has a dying wife and wants to be able to take care of her, so he works while she's sleeping, and then he goes home and takes care of her. I mean, sounds like he could be interesting. He just didn't have enough stage time to be interesting, or we didn't really get to know him very much. She does not have a romantic relationship. She has some people who she has some fun times with, but she's not like loving anybody. Like, this book just, I think it was very detective-y. It was very about the cases. And for me, I don't enjoy that. I want character-driven stories. I want to like the detective. I want to be interested in her and her world and her life, and the cases to be secondary. And this book felt like the cases were very upfront, and there were 3, and that was also, I think, too many. I would have maybe liked this better if it was 1 case instead of all 3. So, there was a lot of cases, not a lot of characterization. It was very plot-driven, and for me, that wasn't a book I was able to enjoy. So, I don't think it was a bad book on a... It did not do anything wrong. You know what I mean? It didn't do anything wrong. It just, for my taste, I didn't enjoy it. So, yeah. Those have been my most recent reads. Please tell me in the comments below what you have been reading. Also, if you read any of these books, what did you think? Are there any police procedural books that you could recommend that are very character-driven? I've read the Rizzoli and Isles, and I sort of like those. I got bored with them after a while because, like I said, police procedurals, I will watch the crap out of them. I will watch them and watch them on TV, but in book form, I just tend to really struggle with them. So if you know of a police procedural that is good for people who don't like to actually watch police procedurals, please drop that in the comments below. This has been Jane. I'll see you next time. Bye.